Hello everyone, welcome to Crystal Diaries. This is another video of a series of videos relating to law of contracts in India. And in this video, we are going to learn about contingent contract. But before we begin, please do bring your Bayrect, a notebook and a pen so that we can read the Bayrect simultaneously and note down every important point we discuss here. So, let us begin. Contingent contract. Contingent contract has been dealt from section 31 to 36 of the Indian Contract Act. So what exactly is a contingent contract? Section 31 describes a contingent contract as a contract to do or not to do something if some event collateral to such contract does or does not happen. So basically, a contingent contract is a contract in which a person does something on his part when some event happens in the future or if some event does not happen in the future. Let us understand this with the help of an illustration. A contracts to pay to B rupees 10,000 if B's house is burnt. This is a contingent contract. So here A shall be liable to pay B rupees 10,000 only on one condition, if B's house is burnt. But if B's house is not burnt, A shall not pay rupees 10,000 to B. So basically this is a contract that is used in insurance. So insurance is a kind of contingent contract. Now do you know that a wagering agreement is also a contingent contract? But such type of contingent contract has been declared to be void. If you do not remember what exactly a wagering agreement is, then you can please refer to my video on wagering agreement in the playlist. So now let us look at how the enforcement is done in case of contingent contract. So we are going to learn about the enforcement under 6 heads. You can see on the screen, the first is contracts contingent on an event happening. Secondly, contracts contingent on an event not happening. Thirdly, contract contingent on the future conduct of a living person. Fourthly, contract contingent on happening of a specified event within fixed period time. Fifthly, contract contingent on not happening of a specified event within fixed time period. And lastly, agreements contingent on impossible event. Now let us understand all of this one by one. So let us start with section 32. 32 says about contracts contingent on an event happening. Contingent contracts to do or not to do anything in an uncertain future event happens cannot be enforced by law unless and until that event has happened. If the event becomes impossible, such contracts become void. So in this case, it says that a person shall do or not do a particular thing if any uncertain future event happens. Okay? And if the event itself becomes impossible, then that contract becomes void. This can be better understood with the help of illustrations. So the first illustration goes as A makes a contract with B to buy B's horse if A survives C. This contract cannot be enforced by law unless and until B dies in A's lifetime. Now the second illustration says A makes a contract with B to sell a horse to B at a specified price if C, to whom the horse has been offered, refuses to buy him. The contract cannot be enforced by law unless and until C refuses to buy the horse. And the third one being A contracts to pay B a sum of money when B marries C. C dies without being married to B. Now the whole contract becomes void. Now section 33 says about contracts contingent on an event not happening. Okay, that's now totally opposite of section 32. So contingent contracts to do or not to do anything if an uncertain future event does not happen can be enforced when the happening of that event becomes impossible and not before. So in this case, the contract is contingent on an event not happening. So if the event becomes impossible, then only this contract can be enforced. Now let us look at the illustration. A agrees to pay B a sum of money if a certain ship doesn't return. The ship is sunk. So here the ship gets sunk. So there is no chance of the ship coming back. So the contract can be enforced when the ship sinks. Now moving to section 34. It says contract contingent on the future conduct of a living person. If the future event on which a contract is contingent is the way in which a person will act at an unspecified time, the event shall be considered to become impossible when such person does not or does anything which renders it impossible that the should so act within any definite time or otherwise than under further contingency. Now this is a kind of tricky, but in order to understand that, we need to move to the illustration so that we can understand it in a proper manner. Suppose A agrees to pay B a sum of money if B marries C. Now B marrying C is the future conduct of a living person. Here the living person is B and the contract is contingent on the conduct of B. What is the conduct? B marrying C. But C marries D. Now the marriage of B to C must now be considered impossible because one of them is married. How can that same person get married to another person? But it is possible that D may die and that C may afterwards marry B. So when C afterwards marries B, in that case, the contract will be enforced. Otherwise, if he does not marry, then in that case, it becomes void or it cannot be enforced. Now moving to section 35, contract contingent on happening of a specified event within fixed time period. It says contingent contracts to do or not to do anything if a specified uncertain event happens within a fixed time become void if at the expiration of the time fixed such event has not happened, or if before the time fixed such event becomes impossible. So here the contract is contingent on the happening of a specified event within specified period of time. But if within the specified period of time such event does not happen or the happening of such event becomes impossible, then the contract becomes void. And the illustration goes as A promises to pay B a sum of money if a certain ship returns within the year. The contract may be enforced if the ship returns within the year and becomes void if the ship is burnt within the year. Okay. Now section 35 says about contract contingent on not happening of a specified event within fixed time period. Now this is absolutely the opposite to the previous one and both are written in section 35. It says contingent contract to do or not to do anything if a specified uncertain event does not happen within a fixed time may be enforced by law when the time fixed has expired and such event has not happened, or before the time fixed has expired if it becomes certain that such event will not happen. And the illustration goes as A promises to pay B a sum of money if a certain ship does not return within a year. The contract may be enforced if the ship does not return within a year or is burnt within the year. Now the last one, section 36 says agreements contingent on impossible event. So contingent agreements to do or not to do anything if an impossible event happens are void, whether the impossibility of the event is known or not to the parties to the agreement at the time when it is made. So it says that any agreement that is made on the contingent On the impossible event, in that case, the agreement will be void. And also, it is not necessary whether parties know about this or not, it becomes void. It will be better cleared with the illustrations. The first one being A agrees to pay B rupees 1000 if two straight lines should enclose a space. The agreement is void. Why? Because two straight lines never enclose a space. The next illustration being A agrees to pay B rupees 1000 if B will marry A's daughter C. C was dead at the time of the agreement. So it doesn't matter whether A and B had the idea that she was dead while they were making the agreement, but still the agreement is void. So with this, we complete the session on contingent contract. So please go through the Barrett, revise and keep studying, and let's meet each other with a new session on the next video. Thank you and take care.